Today on the 10-12 podcast, myself, Joel Penfield, and Lee Cothran are going to break down our Mount Rushmore of Big 12 athletic moments after Wyatt Hendrickson's massive upset win at the NCAA Wrestling Championships last week. But before we get to that, I would be remiss if I didn't have at least a few thoughts on what's going on in regards to Big 12 basketball, men's and women's. On the men's side, obviously, congrats to the Houston Cougars, who after a couple of years of getting close have finally broken through to the Final Four as members of the Big 12 Conference, which is absolutely huge for this conference in a year where the SEC has dominated the storylines, dominated the headlines, to have a Big 12 team in the Final Four and to, I think, potentially be playing for a national championship. They're going to be in San Antonio for hopefully both games, because let's hope they can get past Duke. In a year where just the second time ever all 4 1 seeds advanced to the Final Four. Last time that happened, a Big 12 team won it all in Kansas. So fingers crossed that Houston can do this. Y'all, I don't care how you feel about Houston specifically. It's a great team to root for. Kelvin Sampson seems like an awesome guy to cheer for. And they're a Big 12 team, and the Big 12 needs this to keep the narrative of this being the best men's college basketball conference alive. We do not need to see a Florida Duke national championship, an Auburn Duke national championship. We need Houston winning the whole dang thing, because we know an SEC team is going to be there, be it Florida or Auburn, because Texas Tech couldn't close the deal against Florida, which is honestly one of the most frustrating losses, both from a Big 12 fan perspective and obviously from a Texas Tech fan perspective. I think I'd rather lose like BYU did to Alabama than the way Texas Tech did to Florida. We should have 2 Big 12 teams here, but alas, we have one, and hopefully we still have one left when it's time to hang the banner, cut the nets, and see the confetti fall, and to hear that One Shining Moment song start to play. On the women's side, TCU has continued their run on the women's tournament, and look, they'll be playing Texas for a trip to the Final Four. I've seen the comments about whether or not you should cheer for TCU. I have stayed away from this topic as best I can, because I just don't know. I just don't know. So look, I'm happy for TCU from a Big 12 perspective to go on as far as possible, especially since they're playing Texas. Shout out Longhorn Republic. Love having our Texas podcast still in the network. Kyle and Gerald do an incredible job. We don't have a TCU show. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Anyone out there who wants to start a TCU athletics podcast to join the network, we would love to have you. But I'm staying away from it. I'm sorry. There's not enough information. She's not been found guilty of anything. I'm just not going to deal with it. So let's focus on the men's side. We'll be rooting for Houston next weekend. Man, really need them to find a way to cut down the nets. And for us to be able to come back next week with Andy and Jamie and talk about it and recap all of the Big 12 men's and women's hoops performances in March Madness. We'll be doing that next week. Obviously, Andy and Jamie off this week. So that's all We'll be back on Thursday as usual. We'll talk about softball. But for now, if you're an Oklahoma State fan, share your thoughts with us. 1012 Network on Twitter, 1012 Network on Blue Sky, 1012podcast@gmail.com. If you're listening to this on YouTube, if you're watching it on YouTube, leave us a comment. If you want to leave us a review for this episode with your thoughts on who we didn't get on our Big 12 Mount Rushmore, hit us up with it. Let me know. Love to hear your thoughts. And without further ado, myself, Lee Cothran, Joel Penfield, my good buddies. Let's talk Go Pokes.
Last week was our first playoff game, and my plaque psoriasis was so itchy under all my gear. Sometimes just thinking about scratching could take me out of the moment. And then my doctor told me I could get clearer skin with a pill called Otezla.
Otezla apremilast is a prescription medicine used to treat adult patients with plaque psoriasis for whom phototherapy or systemic therapy is appropriate. Otezla can help you get clearer skin after just 4 months.
Okay, ready for the next game. Talking to my doctor about a pill was a total game changer.
Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Get medical help right away if you have trouble breathing or swallowing, swelling of the face, lips, tongue, throat, or arms. Severe diarrhea, nausea or vomiting, depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss can happen. Tell your doctor if any of these occur and if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts. Live in the moment. Ask your doctor about Otezla. Call 1-844-4-OTEZLA or visit Otezla.com for prescribing info about cost, and more.
So good. So good, so good.
Get ready, because Clear the Rack is on at your Nordstrom Rack store. Now through Monday, find incredible deals on Wear Now styles. On sale for even less at Nordstrom Rack. Take an extra 25% off red tag clearance throughout the store from brands like Adidas, Marc Jacobs, Steve Madden, and more. All sales final. The best stuff goes fast. So shop this sale at Nordstrom Rack today. Please see NordstromRack.com or ask a store associate for details.
Welcome to a special edition of the 1012 podcast. We, of course, are the flagship show of the 1012 network and cover all 16 teams in the Big 12 conference. But today we're focusing on one school in particular, the Oklahoma State Cowboys, or Cowgirls if it's the females that we're talking about. Why are we doing this particular episode today? Well, because something absolutely incredible happened over the weekend. When Wyatt Hendrickson won the heavyweight bout at the NCAA Wrestling Tournament, and it was one of the greatest upsets of college wrestling history. And so it's led to a lot of different conversations, one of which is, where does it rank amongst greatest Oklahoma State sports moments? Does it get onto the, Mount Rushmore, a term that we all like to use when talking about great moments in any sort of thing? And so I said, I can't solve this problem alone, but it's a conversation I'd love to sit back and talk about glory days of Oklahoma State athletics. So I brought on two people that seemed perfect for this conversation. One, of course, is the man, the myth, the legend, the host of the Pen 12 podcast, the 1012 Network's Big 12 wrestling show. He is also Mr. Dynasty Defined. He's got co-hosts on shows that are like guys out here winning world medals, and he's just hanging out with us on a Wednesday night. He is Lee Cothran.
Thanks for having me, Phillip. I'm excited to talk about this. I mean, lifelong Oklahoma State fan, third generation. We were just lamenting our hairlines. I think that Oklahoma State plays a big part in that. So
I somehow it has skipped me. I have enough hair for the three of us, of course, because the other man joining us tonight is my long-time co-host talking Oklahoma State. Now we spend most of our time Twitter DMing random minor league baseball side promo hats, because we share a deep passion for minor league baseball and the insanity that ensues from it, and college sports need to copy them more. He is Joel Penfield.
Well, it's so funny how there's like a negative correlation between you liking baseball, but you liking the minor league logos. It's a really funny chart that I've tried to plot, and I can't quite get there yet, but it's pretty great.
Yeah, I'm like, look, I'm just not a big baseball guy. I can't. It's okay. I'm sorry. And if I have baseball,
if you have a hilarious minor league logo,
yeah,
Phillip will buy the hat.
Yes.
Are you gonna buy the Chesapeake oyster catchers hat?
Maybe if they put the mildly inappropriate logo on a hat, I might. I am definitely buying the new Tulsa Drillers one, which is the chicken dance one, which is a chicken wearing
lederhosen
and holding a large stein of beer. That one's going in the collection. I have many a minor league and random. I have a banana ball league one. I've got a pickleball, not pickleball the sport, like a pickle league. Yeah. Oh no, I finally got my my Hartford Yard Goats hat. I've been having that one in the. I kid you all not. If you know that you can make on your iPhone, when you open up like Safari, you can have different groups of like tabs open. I literally have one that just says hats to buy.
That's great.
I have the most hair of us all here, and I get griped at by some friends who are like, you have great hair. I'm like, yeah, but I just like hats. I've got a Sky Carp saved in here. I've got a very vintage Arizona State hat. I've got some Rocket City Trash Pandas that I've been keeping an eye on. Some vintage Oklahoma State. I've got a Missoula Paddleheads, which is a moose in a canoe. If you know anything about my history, I have to have that hat. Okay, but we are not here to talk about minor league baseball or my weird hat obsession or the fact that I have no room for it anymore. We're here to talk about Oklahoma State Mount Rushmore and where Wyatt Hendrickson's win on this weekend ranks among them. I mean, let's pose this. Are we caught up in the moment? Is this just fans who are recency bias and saying this is one of the greatest moments of Oklahoma State sports history? It wasn't a national title for the program. It has many. It has more than anybody else. It's just one individual title. It's a a year from now, maybe we're not all talking about it. Why does this moment, and Lee, I'll let you start, being our wrestling guru here, deserve to be on the mantle of greatest Oklahoma State athletic moments, period?
I've been thinking about this a lot since you reached out, and I think there is a combination of the two. I think there is some just the moment is so monumental that we want to rush to put it on, the Mount Rushmore. And then I was thinking, immediately I was like, oh yeah, for sure, this is a great moment. And then I was thinking about it. And I was like, wait a second, there are some really, really good things that we're going to talk about. But I think the reason that this is so monumental comes down to three things. One, it's cathartic. The Oklahoma State wrestling program has just had a rough run. Our last national champion is one we'd rather not talk about in 2021. It's just been a few years of rough times for the Pokes, and John Smith retired, and you hate to see that happen. It was definitely time. There was a bit of hand wringing around hiring David Taylor because you hired Coleman Scott to be the heir apparent from North Carolina, right? And then you kind of have a dramatic making a decision, a very, very big decision for Chad Weiberg to, instead of going the direction that it seemed it was set up they needed to go, he went out and hired the hottest name in the sport, the biggest superstar in the sport, and which is kudos to him for taking that risk. And then there was the unknown factor of it, of can David Taylor coach these guys to become big time? I think the special circumstances around Wyatt Hendrickson plays a big part in that, with him being an Air Force Academy graduate, not being able to take advantage of the fifth year that they were granted because of COVID, because at service academies or Ivy League schools, they can't wrestle for 5 years. There were a couple of other guys that did that, not from a service academy, but like the number one seed at 197 pounds, Cardenas from Michigan. He spent his 4 years prior at Cornell. So it was, but it's a special circumstance for Wyatt Hendrickson. And then just who he beat. Gable Steveson, after the event, my co-host for Dynasty Defined, Dayton Fix, kept saying over and over, that's the greatest heavyweight wrestler of all time. And legitimately, it might be true. I mean, he's definitely the greatest American heavyweight of all time. Just untouchable. I mean, he hadn't been taken down since 2019. Nobody passes his legs, and Wyatt Hendrickson got in scrambles with him that other wrestlers have been pinned in. I mean, heck, Wyatt Hendrickson would have been pinned in those positions a couple of years ago. So it was just a really special circumstance that led to this moment, and it was enormous. Add in, it's the last match of the tournament. It is Gable Steveson's last match. It's Wyatt Hendrickson's last match. He had beaten last year's national champion in the semifinals on Friday night. All this stuff, and then you add in the politics of the moment with the president of the United States, his commander in chief, sitting there, watching. Regardless of how you feel about that, that's a big deal to have that, and for him, and then just the theatrics of it all. He goes over there and salutes the guy. I mean, it's just you couldn't have scripted a better thing happening, which, I mean, Iowa fans, of course, are saying that that's what happened. It was scripted because they're, of course, jealous and don't know any better. They were all loaded up on, they were having trouble finding Busch Lights in Philadelphia. The Iowa fans were lamenting having to drink Bud Light. So they were all hot and heavy. But yeah, it was just I think that's really what it was. Yes, it is a great moment for sure. And I think it deserves a conversation. And I'm ready to say yeah, but I also think that there's other things that we need to discuss here.
Joel?
Initially I was kind of with Lee. Like, after, I think it was even after the moment set in, and the next day, I'm sitting there thinking about some of those moments and other things that have happened in the program's history, at least even in recent events. And nothing felt bigger than that. For me, at least in recent times. I understand I'm fairly young, but I can't think of a moment that made me feel that way than what Wyatt Hendrickson did. And to add some more to what Lee talked about, like, I think the fact that it was Gable Steveson, who is one of, if not the greatest heavyweights ever, getting the takedown at the time he did, I think we'd maybe feel different if it was like a 3-2 match and it was just a bunch of escapes and Wyatt kind of ekes it out and finds a way to win that way. But getting a takedown in the final 20 seconds, the announcers are losing their mind, the way the crowd erupted, I think just everything that surrounded the moment as well, and everyone in that moment recognizing how big it was for Wyatt to be able to get that win, I think it adds to it a little bit. That the sport itself, and people that cover the sport were so shocked. Like, I know that betting odds are not everything, but to put into perspective for people, when that match started, Wyatt Hendrickson was 26-0, 50% pin percentage, in bonused all but 3 matches all season. He was clear number 2. Steveson's amazing. And Gable Steveson was a minus 1,300 favorite to win.
Yep.
Like, that shows how crazy of an upset that it was. And for him to get the takedown when he did, and for it to be the first takedown that Steveson gave up in 6 years, and the first time he lost in any competition, international or collegiate, in 6 years, again, it adds to the legend of that moment. And it's one we'll talk about, and people that follow wrestling religiously will talk about for decades and decades.
And I think that's part of it. It's not just like in our Oklahoma State fandom circle, we're loving this moment. It's just massive.
It exceeds the bubble of Oklahoma State, and I think that's what makes it great. Because there are moments in Oklahoma State history that for us are on the Mount Rushmore, but it's not as significant to someone that is even a Penn State fan or an Iowa fan or whoever. Those will still have even if they want to support their school first and foremost, obviously. But they're even like, holy shit, Wyatt Hendrickson did that. Like, that is, I think that it transcends just Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Well, and you also need to consider Penn State accomplished something monumental in this national tournament. They had the story. They had 10 All-Americans, all of them in the top 6, 7 of them in the top 3. I mean, there have been 10 All-Americans one other time in the history of the NCAA Wrestling Championship. And that team in 2001, Minnesota, they didn't have any national champions. And so Penn State really, they had they named who will be the only 5-time national champion in the history of the sport. Hopefully we don't have another COVID situation. You had Mitchell Messenbrink win his first national championship, and he's a great all-time wrestler. You had just what they did. They broke their own scoring record. It was just it was a massive, massive weekend for them, completely erased by this upset. So when you think of it like that, yeah, for sure. I mean, it definitely is. You're absolutely right, Joel, that it is a huge deal that they did this. I mean, or that Wyatt Hendrickson did this, and it's completely taken over the conversation about the tournament. And any other year, any other opponent, I don't think that would have happened.
And that's what I think puts it up there. When you have people who cover the sport calling it the greatest upset in college wrestling, not Oklahoma State fans, not people around Oklahoma State, people who cover the sport calling it that, who cover the sport across not just the NCAA tournament, but period, calling it the greatest upset. You take into it That is the first line item when talking about this tournament. Not who won it, not the only probably ever 5-time national champion. That win, you take into it, the drama matters. Like the drama plays into it, right? We talk about, use the college football. We talk about the kick six all the time. Auburn beat Alabama. Auburn's beat Alabama. It was a football game. Yada. It's because that it happened in such a dramatic fashion that it has ingrained itself into our memories. That it ended the way it did. That he got the pin when he got the pin. That you get the 13 seconds left, and the incredible job that the announcers did in the call. All of that culminates into taking what was already a massive thing and ingraining it into our brains in a way that can non-wrestling or Penn State fans recall the biggest moments from the last 5 tournaments? I mean that. Can casual people, you can bring up the one where Wyatt Hendrickson said, "Oh yeah, I remember that." Can other casual people remember what's happened as the marquee moment in the last 5 tournaments? I think this one's going to stick and be talked about for a very, very long time. Throw in just from an Oklahoma State historical standpoint, it's the first time they've had 2 national champions, individual champions, since 2016. That's 9 years. It's the first champions they've had since
Heil and Derringer.
Yes. But as you mentioned, first national champion we've had since 2021. First time an Oklahoma State heavyweight has won the national championship since 1978. Well, Jimmy Jackson. Like, it's just, there's so much that goes about this, but it's the drama. It's the way that it happened. It's the call. It's that clip that has been shared and played for a week straight. That's still getting passed around and people are still stopping to look at it. It's people telling stories of random people who don't care about Oklahoma State or follow wrestling, having seen that moment. All in part, some of them because the president was there. All these little individual things culminating in it being the last bout of the night. It was the last bout of the night. All these things play into it being this moment that's going to stick out for a very, very long time. I am perfectly fine with it being on the Mount Rushmore of Oklahoma State moments because of all of those different things that played into that moment.
Yeah. But I think you also I think you also consider it's the first year of the David Taylor era and all that stuff. And
Hendrickson
really
had never gotten there. Like, he was an All-American last year, but then, he couldn't get over the hump. And, 5th year, and he was a 3-time All-American. It's one of those, he could have just been like a Dayton Fix or something like that. It was like a great story. All-American, got there and just couldn't get over it. And to do it in the fashion that he did in that final moment in his final match before he goes to be a 2nd lieutenant in the Air Force, I mean, all of it just plays in. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, and heck, you add in the Dean Hamady situation there as well.
Same thing.
Where he had to, and Levi Haynes was a national champion last year. Mm-hmm. So, and that was, I mean, I have refrained from gloating about anything that has happened on Twitter because I'm going to be wrong more often than I'm right. But I caught a mountain of heck for, putting out there that, like, why can't this happen? Like, why can't Dean Hamady or Dustin Plott or Wyatt Hendrickson win a national championship? And they pointed out exactly that, Joel. Well, they've never done it before. They've never beaten guys like this. They've never been able to accomplish this kind of thing. And I'm like, well, what changed for all of them? They all get probably certainly a top 3 wrestler in the world around their weight class, coaching them. And then you have this all entirely changed environment that they're in. So it's, I think it was kind of foolish to just completely count them out. But at the same time, I'm unabashed Oklahoma State wrestling homer. So,
what?
As it turns out. So,
dude, you're out there on Twitter, like, sharing updates about every single Big 12 school's roster. You may be unabashedly an Oklahoma State fan, but you know what you're talking about when it comes to the sport and the conference as a whole. So
yeah.
So, celebrate your wins when you got them, and you got to win. Shout out Seth Duckworth for making sure that everyone was aware of that. Okay, so look, I don't want to rank, try and do like this is the number 1 or number 2 ranking stuff. It just gets silly and we all nitpick. But I do think the Mount Rushmore of it with 4 other items is a worthy conversation. And so I have my list of 5 with Wyatt Hendrickson's win on there. And so I'm going to run through my 4, and then you guys have the opportunity to share if you have something different or you agree or disagree what should or shouldn't be on there. And I'm going to start with
Membership means more with American Express Business Gold. Earn 4 times membership rewards points in your top 2 eligible spending categories every month, including eligible U.S. advertising purchases and select media, and U.S. purchases at restaurants, including takeout and delivery. What are you waiting for? Get the card that flexes with your spending every month. Terms and points cap apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold Card. Built for business by American Express.
I think a lot of these things are going to fall into my lifetime. And if you put someone on this podcast who was in his 70s or 80s, they might have a different opinion on things that happen in their time frame. But I got to go with the stuff that sticks out to me. And I'll start with one that didn't happen during my Oklahoma State fandom. I was a bit young, but I think it's the one thing from the many years of Oklahoma State sports that's always going to be there. And it's Barry Sanders winning the Heisman. Like that sticks on there. There's only 2 statues outside of the football stadium, and one of them is deserved, but it shouldn't probably have been the first one. Barry Sanders is the greatest collegiate running back of all time, one of the greatest running backs, period, of all time. He played at Oklahoma State. He got a Heisman while he was playing a game in Tokyo and had to accept it from Tokyo over the from broadcast. I mean, it's on there. It's just Barry's face, so we all know exactly what it is.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. Like that has to be on there, and I don't care which spot it's in on the Mount Rushmore, but it's got to be on there.
Definitely. I mean, Barry Sanders is, he's just enshrined on it for sure.
Yeah, great. It's nice to see that we were off to a roaring start. All right, we have Barry, we have Hendrickson. There have been many great seasons for Oklahoma State basketball. And again, we may be talking about recency bias here. They've won 2 national championships, but I don't know that there's anyone left alive who remembers them. And I do think things change over time, but I have the 03 Final Four run because Oklahoma State used to be a basketball school. Like it was. I don't know that it is anymore, much to the chagrin of fans our age. Lee agrees it's probably not anymore. And look, that's okay. We are not young anymore. Not in I would say we might still be in our prime, but we remember back in my day, Oklahoma State was a basketball school. And I still think that Final Four run is still one of the best things because it was this. I mean, I hate to say it was the high point, and it's all been downhill since. It's true.
It has.
But it was such a massive. You think about who was on that roster.
John Lucas.
Tony
Allen.
Tony Allen, my favorite basketball player of all time, who, shout out when he was in Boston and Memphis. That one's on there for me because it was, again, this is when I experienced, this is what that year that team locked in my Oklahoma State fandom. I have to put it on there.
Yeah, I distill it down to the shot.
The shot, John Lucas' shot sells it for me.
If we're saying moments.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a special, that 2004 run, I was a freshman in high school, and there was a situation in my hometown that happened, and the night before the Big 12 championship game, and not going to get into it, but it was an unfortunate situation in McKinney, Texas, and Oklahoma State was playing Texas in the Big 12 championship game, and my dad just was like, he woke me up and he was like, "Hey, we're going down to," like, he told me what happened. They told me what happened, and then he was like, "We're going down to Dallas to watch the Pokes." And so we went to the American Airlines Center and watched the game, and it was just like an escape in that time until the situation. And then just that run was just cathartic. kind of like the Wyatt Hendrickson thing. I mean, much different situations, but it was that really cemented my Oklahoma State fandom for sure. And it was a great that shot I will always remember. And then it was like 3 years after the plane crash, all that stuff. Eddie's, redemption kind of all that he was dealing with, and then of course he had his fall, unfortunately. But it was just an incredible moment in the history of our athletics program for sure.
I won't say how old I was when that happened, and we'll just move on.
I was a freshman in college. That was my freshman year.
Do you want to know, Phillip? How old do you think I was?
I forget you're so much younger. It's the sophomore in high school?
In 03, 04?
I don't know how old you
Dude,
are.
I was in first grade.
Wow.
Okay,
I was
I'm
7.
the only old fart here now.
Dude, I was 7 years old when that happened. So this is where it falls in the like nostalgic category for me, because I still remember the game. My dad and I were watching it, but I was young, and it was on a Sunday. I had to go to school the next day. And so it's like, midway through the second half, my mom was finally like, you have to go to bed. So I go up to my room, I get settled, and then I crept back down the stairs and into the house we were living in. I could get halfway down the stairs, and there was still enough of the ceiling that where you couldn't see me, but I could see the TV. So I'm sitting there as quietly as I could, and I watched the shot. Like, I still vividly remember that, and somehow never got caught. So it still sits in my fandom. Like, my parents were Oklahoma State fans, so it was a huge deal. And yeah, so I was very, very, I was 7 when that happened.
I remember so much about that team. I remember every game they played. I remember that it was ridiculous that they were a 2 seed and not a 1. I remember the Big 12 tournament immensely. I was working at the newly opened Panera in town and hopped on the intercom system to let everyone know that Oklahoma State had won the Big 12 tournament, because we were listening on the radio in the back because I had to work. I remember watching them beat Pitt in one of my good friend's dorm rooms. The St. Joseph game, of course, we've had a bunch of friends at a single house. I remember the ESPN debates that they should shuffle around who plays who, because Duke and Connecticut should be the national championship game because it's Duke and Connecticut, because that's when ESPN started diving into we could talk real sports and we could just make stuff up, and that's how we entertained everyone for a week. I blame that moment for Stephen A. Smith even existing as an ESPN personality. So I think we all agree that one goes on there. Okay. I have 2 more, since of course Mount Rushmore has 4 heads, so I've named 3. So I've got 2 more options for the 4th spot. Stanford, and they're both football, because there's got to be a football spot. Stanford win in the Fiesta Bowl, which I'm very high on. I'm going to leave it there because I saw that one mentioned, and I'm okay with it. I go to Bedlam, and here's where my debate comes in. I lean 2021 over 2023, and here's why. I understand 2023 was the last Bedlam game for who knows how long. And that's a lot of stakes. I have some bias because I was at the 2021 game. But to me, the 2021 game was the year we didn't know if it would be the last one. At the time, we didn't know if it'd be the last one in Stillwater. We didn't know when OU was going to leave for the SEC. And so it had more of this could be our last home Bedlam game for who knows how long. Oh, by the way, winning it sent you to the Big 12 title game. And I don't care what happened at that game, that doesn't have an impact on this game. Oh, by the way, OU led in this game. You were trailing Oklahoma and had to make a comeback. Oh, by the way, we've all seen the clip over and over and over again of the 4th down tackle. Because I, as an Oklahoma State fan, I'm just sitting there going like, we're going to lose this. There's no way. We don't win in these moments. OU finds a way. Sooner Magic always finds a way to prevail. And we all know the radio call. We all know the line, where's that Sooner Magic now, baby? From an Oklahoma State fandom, because I get the importance of Barry winning the Heisman, and I get the importance of Hendrickson, and I get the importance of the Final Four run. No, that game may not have the impact nationally for Oklahoma State, but one of the few Bedlam wins we've seen as Oklahoma State fans in a very long time. that didn't end the way most of those games, like the way that game ended. In what we thought was going to be could have been the final Bedlam game we'd see in a very long time, that sent them to the Big 12 championship game and basically ran Lincoln Riley out of town of Norman. I lean towards 2021. Again, I am biased. I was on the field after the game with my then pregnant wife. I was in attendance for that one. It's the only Bedlam football game I have ever had the guts to actually go to. And it went the way that it went. I put 2021 Bedlam on there.
I'm with you actually on this once you mentioned it more, because I leaned to the 2023 Bedlam game purely for the nostalgia of it's the last one and we got it. But I think the 2021 game felt more impactful and I think is more cathartic as time has gone on. The play that goes in my mind from that game isn't the Colin Oliver sack. It's the Eric Gray fumble on the punt on the 1 yard line. When he fumbled and Oklahoma State falls on it, they get the touchdown to take the lead. How many times in the history of that rivalry would that ball have bounced directly back up into Eric Gray's arms and OU gets the ball back and they go down and drive a 99-yard drive to score? And
No. They would have called, like, they would have said that OSU like ran into him. And
it would have been something ridiculous.
It wasn't a real fumble, even if he did, grab the ball, take 3 steps, and turn. It wasn't actually a fumble.
Let's not relive that one. I don't want to relive it. I don't want to relive it.
Every Oklahoma State fan is like, I know that play.
Yep. But I was in attendance for that. Phillip and I got a drink at halftime of that game, and we here's to getting our hearts broken because we knew what was going to happen. At least we thought we knew. But I'm in the student section with my sister, who at the time was a student, and these 2 guys in front of us that, they didn't grow up Oklahoma State fans. They don't understand the pain. They didn't know the pain.
They do now.
They do now, yes. But at the time, they were young and dumb and didn't understand. And so they're losing their minds. I'm just stunned watching Eric Gray fumble, and we got it. And they turn to me, and they're like, are you okay? I'm like, no, that doesn't happen. Like, we're winning this game. That does not happen in this game. And there were so many moments in that game, like, honestly, Colin Oliver tripping up Caleb Williams after giving up a 40-yard run where I went, oh, God. Here it is. Again, how many times would Colin Oliver have just missed his ankles and Caleb Williams throws a touchdown on the final play? Like, that kind of stuff. There was so much of the, like, beating Squinky with a steel chair in that game, like, instead of Squinky doing it to us, that I think the emotions of it play up. I agree with you.
I loved both the Bedlam wins in 2023 and 2021. I loved winning the Fiesta Bowl. That was a massive accomplishment for the program. It was really needed. I wouldn't put any of those on my Mount Rushmore. And I'll give you the two options I was thinking.
Okay.
And it's because you introduced, and this is kind of why the Wyatt moment, I was like, oh man, it kind of gets knocked off. But after talking through you, I'm back in, baby. Let's go. That's on the mountain. But I am going, the golf team beating the Tiger Woods Stanford team in the national championship in 1995.
That's good. That's really good.
And then my other one is 2001 Bedlam, because it launched the entire thing. The reason that Oklahoma State football is on the map is because of that Bedlam win. It got Boone Pickens involved. It made him say, we can compete, and I'm going to go up there and I'm going to make something happen. He wasn't giving to football really at a significant level before that. He had funded a ton of the golf stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But he was all in after that Bedlam win. It kept him out of a national championship game. It kept him out of the Rose Bowl. It was huge, and it was a massive upset. That team wasn't good, right?
That was Les's first year.
That was his first year, and it was. And Josh Fields came in for Oso guy got hurt, and Josh Fields is nobody really knows who he is, baseball player that's kind of just there from Stillwater, right? He comes in and he's just tearing them apart. Man, he gets that pass to Rashawn Woods that we all, are beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And that is I think that would be, I think that catch would be the one where Woods comes down with it 16-13. Let's go. And then, of course, again, slaying the tiger. I mean, they wrote a book about it, right? Like, I mean, it's the Oklahoma State, that 95 Oklahoma State golf team of guys that a couple played on the tour. Some of them were good, but they beat that Stanford team that was loaded with Vijay Singh and Tiger Woods and, all those folks. And I think that you got to put that one on there.
Oh.
So I found the point spread for 2001 Bedlam. Does anyone remember it?
No.
27.5.
Yeah, that's the clip of Woods, that drive, because the clip's always like that whole drive of big play, touchdown. Lee, those are good. Oh.
And again, 2021 Bedlam, 2023 Bedlam, both amazing. I went with my dad. We had a great time. It was we neither, both of us were like, I don't want to go up there and watch us get beat. And these, that was that exactly the same. I was like, I don't think I can do it. And just that Thanksgiving, I was talking about it with my wife and my in-laws, and they were like, you should definitely go. And they don't know anything about Oklahoma State. I'm pretty confident neither of my in-laws have actually ever been to Oklahoma, but like they were like, yeah, you definitely should go. And then I called my dad and I was like, hey, I'll see you at 6 a.m. And we're going to drive up there and do it, and I'm glad we did, because it was gave Adam Lunt a giant bear hug. And it was just the first time I've cried in a while. So it was a good one. That 2021 game was a good one, but I don't think that it was quite on the same.
I think your calls are good. Look, 2021 that was my Christmas gift. I made all my family. I was like, what do you want for Christmas? Like, y'all are just going to give me money so I can pay for the hotel and food and tickets. And that's all I want, is to go to this game. That was my Christmas gift, was to make sure that I was there. But no, the golf team, the 2001 Bedlam is a great call.
This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was getting frustrated by your forms. Now, Taxes is uploading your forms with a snap, and a TurboTax expert will do your taxes for you. One who's backed by the latest tech, which cross-checks millions of data points for absolute accuracy, all of which makes it easy for you to get the most money back, guaranteed. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees.
I don't think
you might be right on golf.
20-year run of football success without that win. I really don't.
That's
great. That's like a great butterfly effect moment. I hadn't even really considered that being the moment, but that's such a.
That stadium's not as nice as it is.
Is Gundy the head coach? If
Gundy's probably not,
because he was OC. Like, is he? Oh man,
we've probably had 7 head coaches in the time span.
That is that's okay.
Which would probably make some people happy. I'm not one of them. I don't really understand, but as we've talked about many times.
Do you guys have any, maybe it's not on the Mount Rushmore, but on your personal one that sticks out to you, even if it's maybe not as historically significant, but just means something to you?
Sean Sutton's win over Kansas was a special one for me. I thought that was a really good moment for him, for Keaton Page, for a really unheralded team. And unheralded for a lot of reasons. They weren't that good. But they beat the number 2 Kansas team in Gallagher, and it was a great moment that I'll always remember. I think that was the first time I stormed the court as a student.
Was that the year they would beat everyone at home and couldn't win on the road?
Yeah. They missed the tournament.
Because they couldn't win a road game. They didn't win a single road game all year.
Yeah.
I remember that because I was standing upstairs at McNelly's in downtown Tulsa watching them lose to Colorado. I was like, what is happening, and they never won a road game that season. That team was
Yeah.
they could beat anyone at home, because that's also isn't that the triple OT Durant win was that
No.
year? No,
that was the year before.
that's right.
Oh man, Byron Eaton was on that team.
Yeah, see, I was
And
Yeah,
thinking
because
Marcus
Byron Eaton.
Duff.
Yeah,
the one that sticks out to me for sure is the triple overtime win against Kevin Durant in Texas.
Yeah,
That
that
game
was
was bonkers.
the Byron Eaton throw up from
And-
trying to go out of bounds over his head, and it's
yeah, that was good.
Man, personally, that's
Good when the Des Bryant and Zach Robinson team beat Missouri in Missouri.
Oh, yep.
That was a big one.
that's always I it was a few years ago when CRFF was still around, and I ranked every Gundy win, and I've always said that is a top 3 win of the Gundy era, because that's the first time. I mean, you went on a road to a Missouri team who was top 10 contenders for the national championship. Chase Daniel was a Heisman favorite. You went on the road. They hadn't lost at home in I can't remember how long, and you beat them. And that game was ugly, and I've rewatched it. That was an ugly rock fight, gross game. But I remember watching that game after getting off work at Brothers in Norman, just getting hammered, watching that game. And it was so good. That is still one of, to me, like the most impactful Gundy wins, because that's where they were shooting the cameras down, because the defense was on the field and Gundy wasn't even like watching what was going on. He's just staring at the. Oh yeah,
which people still hold against him as well. That's another thing that
then he hired
Twitter people get
OCs. It
fired
doesn't
up about.
matter. Yeah, whatever.
I've got several wrestling ones too.
Can I get one wrestling one in, Lee? Because I bet we have one of the same ones. Nick Piccinini's pin against Spencer Lee against Iowa 2019.
For 100%. That was a good one.
That was the last wrestling duel when I was a student.
Mm-hmm.
And I still, I've been asked on other shows and, water cooler talk and stuff, like, what was your favorite moment from college, like sports wise? I was like, oh, it was that, because it was the reigning national champion. Piccinini was awesome. I always loved watching him wrestle, and to go take down pin. I had never heard Gallagher erupt the way it did, with just the quick 2 pin done. And he leads off that duel, beating the reigning national champ. It was,
well, Spencer
Lee.
I go
back to.
Spencer Lee is a guy that is, Gable Steveson level. He's an Olympic silver medalist now. Like, he is. He was one of the best college wrestlers of all time. And Nick Piccinini pulling that off was incredible. That's another thing that makes the Wyatt Hendrickson thing so good, is that he didn't pin him. Like, he didn't catch him in anything. He didn't catch Steveson in a mistake. He just beat him in a takedown slugfest, and that made it so that nobody can question it ever. He just he just straight up beat him. Anyway, like wrestling nerds are weird about
But no, because that was a lot of the talk that I was seeing leading up to the match, was like, the only way that Wyatt's going to win this is if he just gets lucky and pins him.
Yeah. So pins are generally lucky, like in high level matches for sure. But Nick Piccinini actually wrestled a really good match there to get to that point, because the formula on Spencer Lee was to make him wrestle until the third period, because he just would tech or pin everybody in the first period or early second, and that was what if you took him to the third period, he would get tired. And Piccinini did that and wrestled hard, and then got him in that cradle. And that was a beautiful moment. And for somebody that's your age, Joel, that is the loudest. That unfortunately, that's like the one time you've been able to experience Gallagher how it should be.
Yep.
And I wrote for Pistols Firing back in 2016, 2017, when Penn State came to Stillwater.
That was 17, because I was there for that as well.
So I think the opening line of the recap of that duel was like talking about, and this is just always true, that building is its most magical at its diametric opposites. So when you're in there alone, like when you're in there standing on that maple floor and there's nobody else in there, and there's just a couple lights on, and it's kind of dark, it's really quiet, you can just kind of feel the ghosts of the place, and then the other is when it is erupted, and the roof is getting blown off of it, and because it is the loudest place you've ever been. I mean, I think my ears were ringing for 3 or 4 days after that Nick Piccinini pin. I remember basketball games like that. I remember, when I was a student, I remember wrestling duels that were like that, only had 8,000 people in them, but those people got rowdy, and it was a great, great time. And that building is just a special, special place. And I think you just have to really see it at those points to appreciate it. And that just is fact for anybody that's experienced it in those moments. But yeah, the Piccinini pin was a good one. I was going to say Pat Smith winning his 4th national championship. He was the first wrestler to ever do that. That was in 1995. It was his brother had given up his senior level career, greatest American wrestler of all time, to take over the coaching job, and he goes out there and coaches his brother to 4 national championships, and that again was the first guy to ever do it. You've got all the stories of people hanging from the rafters for the Big 8 championships and the Bedlam duels where they break out the lights and all that stuff, right? So the wrestling program has really given us some incredible moments of dominance and winning, right? Like, it's the bright spot for some darker times of Oklahoma State athletics. And I think that when you really, I think that's what makes the Wyatt Hendrickson thing so special, is that it really just kind of brings us back there and reminds us, like, hey, we're the Joneses here, and we should be in this spot, and we should be producing at this level. And I think that's what makes it so exciting for an Oklahoma State fan, and brings us back to that place where, like, okay, yeah, we need to be proud of this. We need to not be beaten down by the nobody cares about wrestling, line that we get fed from OU and Texas Tech and whatever Houston. I guess they don't actually care, but it's still a thing like that. I hear it all the time.
A line that gets thrown out.
It's a line that gets thrown out. And I sat on the plane next to a OU wrestler. They were all in middle seats, which is sad. And then he's lamenting. He's like, man, why does an OSU guy know more about my career than any OU fan I've ever met? And it was just like, well, I'm a sicko, so that's part of it. But, like, yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, man, that sucks. Like, but you did have a great career. You wrestled really well. You had whatever, we chatted. And it was just I felt for him, because I was just like, man, because those people, not only do they not care about you, they actively tear down your sport only because the rival's better, So it's, I think that's what makes that Wyatt Hendrickson moment so great. And I'm sorry for rambling there.
No, I think that was a perfect wraparound. I think it was a great way to end a very Oklahoma-centric, cathartic, and enjoyable walk down memory lane for a lot of great Oklahoma State moments. So we're going to wrap this one here. Y'all enjoy your week. Lee, you can find him everywhere as Dynasty Defined. I'm going to expect that there's a Pin 12 podcast dropping soon to recap the national championships. Lee, you do an incredible job. It's an absolute thrill and pleasure and joy to have you in the network. You and Sam just do a great job and have such a great passion for Big 12 wrestling. It's fantastic. And if you are a fan of the Kansas City Royals and you don't know who Joel Penfield is, I feel sorry for you. You should. Okay. Like, Joel, tell him where to find your stuff.
You can follow me at JT Penfield on Twitter for a various smattering of Oklahoma State and Royals content throughout the year. You can follow my podcast, One Royal Way, over at KC Sports Network, wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube as well. And follow me for I'll have episodes Monday, Wednesday, Friday throughout the baseball season talking about the Royals, and hopefully into October for some playoff baseball again.
Fingers crossed for you. This is fun. Always a good time. Yeah. We'll be back later this week to talk softball, because that's what we do on Thursdays. Otherwise, y'all, enjoy your week.
Thanks, Phillip.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.